Have you ever dreamed of something that seemed more real than life itself? Did you wake up with your heart racing, your eyes filled with tears, and a strange feeling, as if you had experienced something too profound to be just a figment of your imagination? Perhaps you felt a gentle presence at your side, an invisible touch, a voice that seemed to come from within and without at the same time. What if this dream wasn't just a reflection of your subconscious? What if it was, in fact, a message, a warning, or even a deliverance from above? What you're about to discover may surprise you and perhaps even move you, because there are people who have been saved by angels. While they were asleep, they didn't see wings or hear heavenly trumpets, but they woke up with their lives changed, freed from a bad decision, protected from a dangerous path, surrounded by an inexplicable peace. And many of them have no idea what really happened that night. Have you ever been through this? It is in the silence of dawn, when everything seems calm on the outside, that the invisible begins to move. During sleep, the rational mind relaxes, the body rests, but the spirit awakens, and in this subtle, almost imperceptible moment, portals open between the visible and the spiritual world. This is when dreams become more than just daydreams, they become channels through which angels can manifest themselves, bringing divine signs, answers, and yes, silent interventions that can change entire destinies. Now imagine being in one of these dreams, and realizing that you are dreaming, that you can interact, choose, observe everything in a lucid way. That's where the power of lucid dreaming comes in, a phenomenon that goes far beyond mind control. It can be a direct bridge to deeper spiritual connections, a key to accessing angelic messages in a clear, conscious, and transformative way. Have you ever had the feeling that you woke up with a decision made, even though you didn't know where it came from? Have you ever felt that a choice you made was too intuitive to be just a coincidence? Stay with me until the end, because together we will explore this mysterious and fascinating universe, where spirituality, lucid dreams, and signs from angels meet, and you will realize that, perhaps, you are not as alone as you think. Maybe, on more nights than you think, someone is by your side, protecting you in silence. And before we continue, think, how many times have you ignored that feeling that the dream left? How many times has that image, that phrase, that insistent feeling been hammering in your heart, but you let it go? Now is the time to look at all of this again, with different eyes, because what seems like just a detail could be a sign that the spiritual world has been trying to deliver you for a long time. In the next part, you will understand why angels choose dreams as a channel of communication and how you can learn to recognize when divine intervention is happening right before your eyes or your dreams. That's why it's so important to learn to listen more carefully to the signs that come to us while we sleep, because often, it's in this silent territory that angels can reach us without logic getting in the way. It's in this space between the conscious and the sacred that revelations emerge. Answers are delivered, and, in certain cases, even lives are protected without the person even realizing it. If this topic resonates with you, if at some point you have had a remarkable, different dream that left you with the feeling that there was something bigger behind it, leave a comment. Sharing your experience can shed light on the path of someone who is going through the same doubt, the same silent calling. Sometimes, what you experienced is exactly what someone else needs to read to understand what they are also feeling. And if this message touched your heart in some way, if it made you look at your own dreams with more reverence, more curiosity, then like this video. This really helps the channel to continue spreading this type of content. Deep, true, and connected to the invisible. And of course, if you feel like you want to follow this spiritual journey with us, subscribe to our channel. That way, you won't miss any content about spirituality, divine signs, and most importantly, about how angels may be acting in your life, even when you don't realize it. Your presence here, your gesture, no matter how small it may seem, makes all the difference. This channel only exists because there are people like you who believe in the power of messages from above and want to delve deeper and deeper into this connection. And speaking of depth, now that you understand the sensitivity of dreams and how they can be a portal to something greater, it's time to dive even deeper into this universe. Because maybe you're closer than you think to recognizing a calling, or even remembering something that once saved you in silence. Have you ever had that moment, in the middle of the night, when in your dream you realized, is this a dream? And suddenly, everything changes. You gain a strange freedom. You can look around, choose where to go, make decisions, even feel the wind, the touch, as if you were truly awake. This, in essence, is what we call a lucid dream. It is not a delusion. It is not fantasy. It is a powerful mental and spiritual phenomenon, in which consciousness awakens within the unconscious itself. But the most interesting thing is not just the fact of being aware in a dream. It is what this lucidity provokes. When you know you were dreaming, the barrier between the rational and the spiritual is broken. It is as if you have opened a window to the invisible, a window where subtle realities become perceptible, and where Messages that would normally be ignored begin to be understood. It is no coincidence that many spiritual experiences reported throughout history have arisen in this threshold state, where the body sleeps but the spirit awakens. In science, lucid dreaming is studied as a hybrid state of consciousness, a mix between REM sleep, the intense dream state, and partial activation of the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for decision-making, analysis, and self-awareness. But from a spiritual perspective, this is much more than just brain activity. It is a meeting point, a sacred ground where our soul moves more freely, where it hears more clearly, where it sees that which, in the physical world, remains hidden. About it, if during the day we are guided by the ego, by distractions, by the noise of the world, then night is the moment when the soul finds enough silence to listen. And when that soul is lucid within its own dream, it doesn't just listen to tough dialogue. She chooses, she recognizes. It is in this exact state that many people report having received answers, reunited with deceased loved ones, received advice, warnings, or even glimpses of what was to come. Some say that in these spiritual lucid dreams, everything seems more alive than in waking life. The colors are more intense, the emotions deeper, the voices that are heard more serene. And there is a reason for this. We are not dealing with creations of the mind, but with impressions of the soul. Impressions that often come loaded with meaning, like small fragments of revelations that go beyond common logic. This is where the central theme of this video comes in. Because angels, beings of light, whose presence manifests itself in the most delicate moments of our existence, often choose this sacred space of lucid dreams to reveal themselves. Not in the spectacular way we imagine with flashes of light and trumpets, but through subtleties, a phrase that leaves a mark. A look that calms, a presence that guides without saying anything. And the curious thing is that, when you are in a state of lucidity within the dream, these manifestations become more clear, more intense, more real than the world around you. Many people report that, in this state, they feel like they are on another plane, as if they have access to a parallel dimension, full of symbolism, guides, and answers. And sometimes, the most impactful thing is not what they see, but what they feel. The feeling of being accompanied, understood, and protected. It is as if something greater were there, silently behind the scenes of the experience, gently guiding a profound transformation, a change that begins in the invisible, but soon reflects on the material world, on everyday decisions, on the way we see life. This is the kind of experience that is not easily explained, because it goes beyond logical understanding. It touches a more subtle layer of existence, a layer that, for a long time, we have ignored. But it is there, waiting to be accessed. When you start having lucid dreams frequently, you realize that they are not just mental training or curiosities of the brain. They are a revelation channel, an opportunity for adjustment, reconnection, and spiritual learning that can bring answers that not even wakefulness would be able to offer. This is precisely why so many spiritual traditions value sleep as a sacred space. For many ancient cultures, dreaming was more than rest. It was a moment of encounter with the divine, and it's not hard to understand why. When you dream lucidly, you are no longer limited by time, space, fear, or reason. You become, for a few moments, pure sensitivity, pure presence. And that's when the angels come closer. They come closer because you, in that state, are more receptive. You are more surrendered. You are more in touch with the truth that lives within you. And it is this truth, silent, symbolic, sometimes even disconcerting, that begins to emerge like an underground river, finally meeting the sunlight. If you've ever had the sensation of waking up from a lucid dream with such a strong emotion that it felt like something inside you had changed forever, know that it wasn't just psychological, it was spiritual. It was a profound impact, a kind of silent baptism where something old was cleansed, something new was activated. Because lucid dreams, when traversed with awareness and intention, leave marks, and those marks echo like echoes of a conversation with the unseen. Write in the comments, "I'm on this journey too," just so I know you're feeling this for real. Now that we understand the depth of this state of spiritual awareness, I want to show you how angels choose this exact moment to act, and why they don't always reveal themselves in the way we expect. Now listen to me with an open heart. There is a reason why angels choose dreams as a means of communication, and it is not by chance. During sleep, especially in the deepest phases, the rational mind calms down, the ego is silenced, and what normally distracts us, worries, judgments, doubts, simply disappears. What remains is a state of purity, of surrender, where the spirit becomes more accessible. It is in this fertile ground that angels can approach more easily. They do not need to break down barriers. They do not need to compete for space with noisy thoughts. They simply arrive, with their own gentleness, and leave their messages there. Sometimes as symbols, other times as sweet voices, or even as a sensation that remains even after waking up. Sleep creates a kind of passage, a gap, where heaven and earth meet for a few moments. And if we are spiritually attentive, we can feel when this connection happens. That is why so many people, even without understanding what a lucid dream is, wake up with tears in their eyes, with their heart racing, or with the unshakable certainty that someone was there. This sensitivity is not a weakness, it is a sign that something deep is trying to emerge. And when this happens, you do not return the same. There is an invisible transformation that shapes your decisions, your mindset, and even the way you perceive the world around you. We are not talking about forced interpretations or mystical delusions here. We are talking about real experiences, many of which are recorded in the history of humanity itself. One of the most striking examples is in the Bible. Joseph, Mary's husband, was warned by an angel in a dream that he should flee with the baby Jesus to Egypt. This was not a metaphor. It was a divine intervention, precise, clear, and targeted. And this did not happen by chance in a moment of wakefulness. It happened during sleep, because in that state, Joseph's soul was more open to receiving the message without resistance. This pattern repeats itself countless times. Kings, prophets, ordinary people. Many were guided, warned, and even saved by messages received in dreams. And this is not a thing of the past. Even today, in the 21st century, the spiritual backstage continues to act. Many of the most important decisions in your life may have been first intuited in a dream that you ignored. And therein lies a hidden truth. Dreams are not just reflections of the mind, they are also spiritual records. Open pages of your journey, where angels write with symbols, emotions, and, sometimes, even with words. This channel is safe, precisely because it is intimate. No one enters your dreams by chance. No one can interfere there without permission. And that is why the angels choose it, because it is a sacred, protected space, where revelation can be delivered without noise. Even if you don't understand everything at the time, the message remains. It settles somewhere deep in your consciousness and begins to work silently. That is why, days later, you feel a strange urge to make a decision you would never have made before, or you change your route, avoid a place, get close to someone, without knowing exactly why. This is the real impact of an angelic intervention. Don't wait for spectacular signs. Angels don't need them. They operate in the subtle, in the details, in the almost imperceptible, and dreams are the perfect stage for this silent action. When the mind is distracted, everything goes unnoticed. But when it is at peace, especially in lucid dreams, what seems simple reveals its depth. It's as if, for a few moments, the entire universe stopped to whisper something just for you. This sensitivity also needs to be cultivated. It's not about controlling dreams. It's about opening yourself spiritually to recognize them. Most people go through life as if they were numb to what's happening behind the scenes of reality. But when you awaken to this other level of perception, you begin to understand that nothing is as it seems. There are hidden layers behind every sensation, every image, every word spoken or not spoken during sleep. And this is precisely where most people go wrong. They ignore the power of the symbol. They think that because the dream did not come with a clear voice from heaven, then it had no value. But angels know how to touch the soul without having to use words. Sometimes, all it takes is a presence, a gesture, a scene that you have never seen. But that makes perfect sense when you wake up. And that is the beauty of the spiritual journey. It does not follow human logic. It follows the language of the soul. Now think about it. How many times have you woken up with that strange feeling that something needed to change? How many times has that persistent dream come back, with small variations, as if it were trying to show you a way? This is not random. It is the backstage of your spiritual life manifesting itself. And the angels are there, like faithful messengers, trying to open your eyes to what is beyond the surface. It is not about fear, it is about wake up. Awaken to what really matters. Awaken to the truth that, often, you already carry within you. You just hadn't realized it yet. Comment here. That makes sense to me, if you have ever felt something similar. Because now I want to take you even deeper into this universe and show you how to identify the subtle signs that angels use to guide you silently, even when you think you are dreaming alone. There are things that we hear and, even without being able to explain them, we feel that they are true. It is as if something inside us is moving, not logically, but in our soul. And when we talk about encounters with angels and dreams, this type of feeling is almost inevitable. Because, as mystical or unbelievable as it may seem, there are real, profound, impactful accounts that simply cannot be ignored. Stories that were not born from fantasy, but from the direct experience of ordinary people, living normal lives. Until the invisible decided to reveal itself, often to protect, guide, or even save. One of the stories that has had a profound impact on me is that of a woman who, one morning, had an unusual lucid dream. She was in her car, driving along a road she knew well, when suddenly, everything around her began to get dark. The sky closed in, the trees disappeared, and the asphalt became unstable, as if it were about to give way. At that moment, a firm, calm voice spoke in her ear. "Don't go today." That was it. She woke up with her heart racing, in a cold sweat. The sensation was so vivid that she felt as if she were still inside that car. And the strangest thing was that she actually had an important appointment that morning, but something kept her from leaving. A discomfort in her chest, an internal restlessness. Something that said obey. Hours later, she received news that a serious accident had occurred on the same road, and at the same time that she had passed by there, a truck lost control on a curve and caused a chain reaction. Among the vehicles hit was a car very similar to hers. She never knew if that dream was just a coincidence. But deep down, she felt that she had been saved. And more than that, somebody wanted her to know, to understand, to trust. These experiences don't come with signs saying that was an angel. They come with subtleties, with signs, with an energy that completely changes the course of things. And even when time passes, the memory doesn't disappear. Because it's not about the dream itself, but about the transformation it causes. After something like this, the person doesn't go back to sleep the same way. They realize that it is a greater intelligence behind the scenes of life. A presence that sees what we don't see, that sees dangers before they arrive, that gently anticipates, showing us a new route without having to shout. Another powerful story is that of a man who was going through a very difficult emotional phase. He felt lost, without purpose, suffocated by unresolved decisions and a meaningless routine, until, one night, in an extremely vivid dream, he found himself in front of an open field, surrounded by a soft, golden light. There, standing in the center, was someone. It was impossible to tell if it was a man or a woman, but what caught his attention most was the serenity in that gaze. The being extended his hand and said, "It's time to get back to who you are." And the dream ended. It was that simple, but that phrase echoed inside him for days. And even without understanding exactly what it meant, he began to change small things. He resumed a spiritual practice he had abandoned, asked forgiveness from someone he hadn't spoken to in years, changed his route to work, and without realizing it, he began a journey of reconnecting with his own essence. Years later, he recognized that that moment marked the beginning of his inner healing. It was when he stopped surviving and began to truly live. And the most incredible thing, when he tried to describe the being he encountered in the dream, he used the same words and sensations reported by other people who had gone through similar experiences: light, peace, silence, presence. There was no name, but there was certainty. Certainty that it did not come from his mind. It came from somewhere higher. A place where the most important decisions in life begin before they even become conscious. These stories remind us of something essential. We don't always realize when we are being saved. Sometimes deliverance happens invisibly. In an unexpected delay, a change of plans, a seemingly strange dream. Sometimes it's an inconvenience that makes you change your path. Other times, it's a voice you hear while you sleep, simply saying, "Don't go," and you don't go. Only later, with time, does the penny drop. The impact of that begins to reveal itself. And even without explanations, you understand. Because when it's spiritual, it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make feel. The hidden truth behind these stories is that we are constantly surrounded by an invisible reality that works in our favor, even when we don't notice it. And dreams are like little portals that open so that this reality can manifest itself in a safe and intimate way. Not to scare us, but to remind us that we are not alone. But there are presences all around us, presences of light ready to reach us at the right moment. And when they choose lucid dreams to do so, it is not because they are limited, but because they respect our freedom, because they understand that it is there, in that state of expanded consciousness, that we are more receptive, more vulnerable to the truth, more available to truly listen. Write in the comments, "I believe in this invisible care," if you have ever experienced something that seems to have come from above, because what I want to show you now will open this perception even further. It is time to understand the most subtle codes that angels use to communicate through dreams, and why. Many times, they do not use words. There are times when a dream doesn't just feel like a dream. You wake up and carry for hours, sometimes days, the feeling that you've lived something real, something that went beyond the limits of your mind. And no matter how much you try to explain it with logic, there's something there that simply escapes common explanation. It's as if that experience had touched such a deep place inside you that it would be impossible to label it as simple imagination. And perhaps that's precisely where the difference between any dream lies. An angelic warning. Recognizing when an angel manifests in a dream may seem difficult at first. But with time and sensitivity, you begin to notice a pattern, a sequence of sensations, symbols, and perceptions that repeat themselves. And the more you pay attention, the easier it becomes to distinguish what is just a fragment of the unconscious, and what Carissa, real spiritual, weight. One of the first marks of an angelic dream is Thynan's emotional impact. And we're not talking about shock or confusion. We're talking about a feeling of peace so deep that you wake up crying, but not from sadness, but from relief. Or, in other situations, a feeling of alertness so strong that your body reacts. Before your mind even understands, it's as if a part of you already knew that something was being revealed. This deep emotional response is one of the most reliable signs Angels don't need to use complex speeches. They touch the emotion, because it's in the emotion that our truth lives. Another strong point is the symbolic presence of light. This can appear in many ways. An entire room bathed in a soft, inexplicable glow. A luminous figure that doesn't speak but transmits security with its presence. Or even a simple beam of light appearing in a dark moment of the dream. And the most curious thing, often, you don't see the face of the being clearly, but you feel it. You feel as if you are being observed with love. There is no judgment, there is no rush, only acceptance. And this light, when it comes, has a unique characteristic. It does not blind, it awakens. There is also the factor of clear voice. Many people report that, amidst the chaos or confusion of their dreams, a clear voice stands out. It is not like the usual dialogues we have in dreams. This voice does not sound like yours, nor like that of someone you know. It is firm, calm, direct, and it usually says a lot with few words. Sometimes, just one sentence. But a sentence that echoes for days, like a seed planted deep within. This voice does not pressure, does not impose, it guides. And when you wake up, you can still hear its sound inside you. Another frequent sign is their repeated symbols. This may seem small, but it has great power. It could be the same number that appears several times, an animal, a specific word, or even a recurring object such as doors, paths, stairs. When the symbol returns in different dreams, or appears prominently, almost as if it were shining in the scenery, it is worth paying attention. Angels use symbolism because they know that our minds capture messages more easily through images and sensations. These symbols do not come by chance. They are loaded with spiritual meaning, and they often have a direct relationship with decisions you need to make, patterns you need to break, or directions you need to follow. And there is one last point that is perhaps the most important of all, the feeling that it was too real to be just a dream. You wake up, and, for a moment, you believe you are still there. The colors are more intense than usual. The details are incredibly vivid. The touch, the temperature of the room, even the smells, everything seems clearer than in waking life. And even if you try to forget, you can't, because it left its mark on you. It created a rupture in your inner journey. As if, for a few minutes, you had crossed an invisible border between this world and another, a world where things are said in silence and felt with the soul. When this happens, it is important not to ignore it. Angels do not send messages for nothing. If you had a dream like this, it is because you are being called to see something. It could be a warning, a deliverance, a confirmation that you are on the right path, or, sometimes, an invitation to change direction completely. And the most beautiful thing about all this is that even if you do not understand it at the time, the message remains there, planted. It will germinate. It will reach you again, later on, in a gesture, an encounter, a sudden intuition. These signs are not meant to scare you. They are meant to remind you that you are not alone, that there is a loving, silent, discreet intelligence patiently accompanying you, and that when you sleep, this presence finds space to reach you in a deeper, more direct, more truthful way. Because deep down, the dream is just a setting. What really matters is the massage that crosses the veil of logic and directly touches your spirit. Comment here, that makes sense to me. If at some point in your life you have had a dream that seemed more vivid than reality, because now is the time to open your spiritual eyes to an even deeper level, that of how to identify the most hidden codes that reveal the angelic presence in your dreams, even when everything seems silent. And when we start to recognize these signs more clearly, everything changes. Decisions are no longer born solely from logic, but also from intuition. The journey stops being a path in the dark and becomes a guided journey, with more purpose, more listening, and less resistance. Because what the angels show us in dreams is not always what we want to see, but it is almost always what the soul needs to see. And if all this makes sense to you, if this topic has touched you in some way, then perhaps it will help you to access some practical and direct material that I have prepared with great care, especially for those who are on this spiritual quest. The name of this content is Reading Your Birth Angel, and it was created to help you connect more deeply with the personalized guidance from the angelic kingdom, revealing insights and directions that can make all the difference in transformation shift you are living now or are about to begin. It's here in the description, but I might take it down in the next few days. So, if it makes sense to you, take a look while it's still available. This material is complementary to what we talked about here and can save you a lot of time and practice, helping you better understand the signals that are already reaching you only now, with more clarity. And since we are opening this perception, let me show you how angels use coded messages to touch precisely the parts of the soul that we usually keep hidden. And when we start paying attention to the subtlest details of lucid dreams, we realize that angels have a language all their own. They don't need fancy words or grandiose appearances full of spectacle. The way they communicate is silent, symbolic, and deeply intimate. It's as if they speak directly to the most sensitive part of us, without going through the filters of reason. And that's precisely when the most common signs start to appear. Not with the force of a scream, but with the delicacy of a whisper that you feel before you even hear it. One of the most recurring symbols is thegolden light. It can appear, in many ways, filling a space, emanating from an object, or coming from a figure that, even without a face, transmits a peace that is unlike anything you have ever felt. This light does not burn, does not bother, it heals. In many reports, people say they felt as if they had been bathed by this luminous energy and, upon waking, they felt different, less anxious, lighter, as if a burden had been lifted, and this, in itself, says a lot about the spiritual impact that this type of presence has. Another frequent sign is the presence of wings, but not always in the way we imagine. Not every angel presents itself with its wings open in grand style. Sometimes, they appear drawn somewhere in the dream scene, like a painting, a stained glass window, or even tattooed on the skin of someone unknown. Other times, you only notice the wings at the last moment, when the figure turns around and disappears. And then comes that silent certainty that you have seen something that was not earthly. It is in this subtlety that they act with lightness and precision. And there's also the sound of voice. When angels speak in dreams, it is not like any other conversation. It is a voice that does not sound human, but you understand it. Sometimes it comes from outside, other times from inside. Some people describe it as a thought that was not thought, a truth that simply emerges whole. And even if the voice says only one word, or none at all, the message is clear, because it does not depend on the form. It depends on the vibration. It carries. Another very special symbol is the touch. It may seem too subtle, but the touch of an angel in dreams has an effect that no other sensation can reproduce. It is not the touch of the body, it is the touch of the soul. As if, with a simple touch, he were saying, you are not alone. It could be a hand on the shoulder, a faceless hug, or just a closeness that warms you from within. And when you wake up, you still feel it. And this is not a metaphor. Some people report feeling this warmth for days. Whitebirds also appear. Frequently, they do not speak, do not interact directly, but they always appear at moments of transition in the dream. When something important is about to happen, or when the environment changes, it is as if they represent the passage, the messenger, the reminder that there is something divine behind what is happening. In some spiritual traditions, the white bird symbolizes precisely the link between worlds, and when it appears in lucid dreams, it is usually pointing to a truth that needs to be accepted, or to a cycle that needs to be closed. Another powerful symbol is bridges and paths. Many people report crossing a bridge, walking down an unknown road, or even climbing an endless staircase. And the interesting thing is that you rarely reach a destination in these dreams. The most important thing is the act of walking. The message is in the journey, not the destination. Angels use these scenarios to show that there is a process underway, something that you need to go through internally, even if you don't understand it yet. And every step you take there, even in the dream plane, has a direct impact on your decisions here on the outside. There are also cases where the angel does not appear with any image. He is just invisible presence, but unmistakable. You don't see it, but you know it. You know that you are accompanied, that you are being watched with love. Sometimes you feel that there is someone walking beside you, even without looking. Other times, the presence is behind you, radiating a silent peace that takes over the entire dream. And that's when you understand. The angel doesn't need to show himself. He just needs to make himself felt. These signs may seem too small to those who look from the outside, but those who experience it know how much these details change everything. Because what is at stake is not the symbol itself, but the transformation it provokes, the change in mentality, the awakening of sensitivity, the realignment of choices that you may have been ignoring. And when these elements come together, light, touch, symbols, silent presences, something inside you, it is as if the soul recognizes something that the mind is still trying to understand. These revelations are not meant to impress, they are meant to wake up, to align you with a higher, truer frequency, more connected to what really matters. And sometimes, it all starts with a detail in a lucid dream, a detail that seemed insignificant, until the moment you understand that was where the message began. Write in the comments, I'm on this journey too, if any of these sensations have ever touched you, because what we are going to explore now is something even deeper, how to use consciousness during dreams to dialogue with this presence, even without words, and allow it to reveal what is behind situations that today seem to have no way out. Developing the ability to have lucid dreams with a spiritual purpose is not just a mental skill, it is first and foremost an opening of the soul. Many people believe that conscious dreaming is a gift reserved for a select few, but the truth is that this is a portal that is available to everyone, as long as there is intention, practice, and, above all, respect for the invisible dimension that it represents. It is not about controlling the dream like someone playing a video game. It is about participating in a sacred conversation between your spirit and that which guides you from above. And this requires sensitivity, but also preparation. The kind of preparation that begins before you even close your eyes. One of the first steps to cultivating this connection is to create the habit of write down your dreams as soon as you wake up. It seems simple, even banal, but the impact of this practice is profound. The human brain, as a natural protection, erases most of its dreams a few minutes after waking up. When you write down, even if it is just a few words, you are telling your subconscious and also the spiritual plane that you are paying attention, that you value what you have received. And this completely changes the frequency with which lucid dreams appear. It is like tuning a radio station. The more precise the tuning, the clearer the message. Another fundamental point is what you do before sleeping. This is a moment that many neglect, but which carries a gigantic hidden power. The state between wakefulness and sleep is fertile ground for the spiritual. It is there, in that silent transition, that intentions are projected with greater force. Therefore, a sincere prayer before falling asleep can be the trigger that opens the doors to a lucid dream with purpose. It doesn't have to be a memorized prayer or full of formalities. It just has to be real. It has to tell the universe and your angel that you are willing to listen, to learn, to receive. The simple act of asking for spiritual protection, for clarity, for discernment, already changes the energy field around your sleep. And here comes a little talked about but extremely effective practice: guided meditation before bed. Choose one that is aligned with your spiritual purpose. That brings an atmosphere of peace and leads your mind to a receptive state. This helps to slow down your thoughts and clear your emotional field to factors that directly affect the quality and lucidity of your dreams. The clearer your mind is when you sleep, the easier it is to recognize when you are dreaming, and most importantly, to remain conscious within that space. A practical technique that many use successfully is the so-called reality checks. During the day, at random moments, you can ask yourself, am I dreaming right now? And do a simple test, such as looking at your hands, trying to walk through a wall with one finger, or checking the time twice. These tests create a pattern of questioning that, over time, transfers to your dreams. And when you do one of these tests in your dream, you will realize that you are dreaming, and at that very moment, lucid dreaming begins. And if your heart is prepared, this moment can become a true encounter with the spiritual plane. But be careful. The goal here is not just to play at being lucid in the dream. It is to use this lucidity as a spiritual transformation tool. And to do this, your mindset needs to be adjusted. That's why so many ancient traditions treat dreams as sacred portals. Not as mental entertainment, but as a space of revelation. A place where the soul is educated, confronted, healed, and you can access this place more often than you think, as long as you prepare the ground with intention and respect. When you combine these practices, dream journaling, prayer before bed, meditation, reality checks, something changes. Not overnight, but gradually. You begin to notice that the content of your dreams becomes more symbolic, more organized, more intelligent. Dreams begin to answer questions you haven't even verbalized. They begin to bring you sensations that don't come from any memory. They begin to deliver messages so precisely that you simply know. This did not come from my mind. It came from another source. And this source is almost always connected to something greater. To a loving consciousness that observes your journey with wisdom. A presence that does not impose, but guides. That does not speak loudly, but touches your inner self. And when you learn to listen to this presence within your dreams, you begin to see life out there with different eyes. Decisions gain more purpose. Choices are no longer based solely on fear or desire, because you begin to feel that you are being guided, and alerted when necessary. And this is not fantasy. It is transformation. It is an alignment between body, mind, and spirit that is reflected in your days, in your relationships, in your steps. Lucid dreaming, in this context, is not just a curious phenomenon, it is a revelation channel, a bridge between the visible and the invisible. And the more you cultivate this space with respect, the more it opens, the more it delivers. The more it heals. And here, that makes sense to me. If you feel ready to dive more consciously into this invisible field that has been trying to show you something that logic cannot reach for so long. Because what follows will reveal how some dreams, even the strangest or seemingly disconnected ones, can hide precious warnings that only make sense when we learn to decipher what the sky is trying to say. ChatGPT said, there is a type of dream that is unlike any other. It is not the random ramblings of a tired mind, nor the unconscious projections of the day that has passed. This dream carries a different, almost sacred mark. It is as if the entire atmosphere of the dream has a vibration of its own, as if someone had prepared the scene for a clear purpose, and you feel it, maybe not at the moment you are dreaming, but especially when you wake up. The feeling that remains is that something inside you has been rearranged, as if a space had been opened, an answer delivered, a direction drawn without fanfare, but with a clarity that does not fade. This is one of the most striking characteristics of a dream of angelic intervention. It wakes you up with a ready-made decision, with an understanding that was previously hazy and suddenly becomes crystal clear. There is no mental effort. There is no internal debate. It is as if the truth simply emerges silent yet incontestable. You do not wake up in doubt, you wake up in peace. And this is the first sign that it was not just your mind working during sleep, but rather a higher presence acting silently. With surgical precision, many people ask me how to differentiate a common dream from an intervention dream. And, of course, this doesn't come with subtitles. But the body, the soul, and even the environment around the person usually give very clear clues. In common dreams, for example, you can even remember some fragments, jumbled images, fleeting sensations, but they dissolve easily. They don't last. Dreams of angelic intervention, on the other hand, remain even days, weeks later. They continue to live inside you, as if they were not just memories, but spiritual marks. Another difference is in the energy that manifests upon awakening. Normal dreams can leave you confused, anxious, or even exhausted. But a dream with an angelic presence leaves you calm, steady, centered, even if the content was strong. Because what matters is not the plot of the dream itself, but the and spiritual effect it causes. Sometimes it's as if the soul has been put back in place, as if something inside has been healed without words. Some say it felt like he had gone to sleep with a wound and woken up with it closed. No logical explanation, just certainty. These dreams also tend to have intense symbols, but not necessarily complicated. They are not puzzles that the mind has to decipher. They are like coded messages, but which the heart understands immediately. You see a white bird crossing the sky, and, without anyone explaining it to you, you know it's time to let something go. Or you walk along a long silent bridge and feel, I'm going through a cycle, something is going to change. The message doesn't come with words, it comes with an intuitive clarity that doesn't need to be translated. Another common feature of these dreams is the absence of fear. Even if the dream shows something challenging, a difficult situation, or even a warning about something that is to come, it does not leave that feeling of panic. On the contrary, it comes with a force that calms, that guides, that pushes you in the right direction. Because angels do not come to create confusion, they come to bring order, even in the midst of chaos. And this sense of order, of silent protection, is what differentiates a dream of angelic intervention from any other type of dream. You may even wake up and not rationally understand everything you saw, but still, your body knows, your heart recognizes, and, over time, the pieces fit together. Something you saw there starts to repeat itself here. A phrase, a scene, a decision that seemed distant, starts to manifest itself naturally in your daily life, because angelic dreams are not only revelations of what is to come, they are also internal transformation activators. Sometimes, just receiving the message starts the process of change, even if you're not fully aware of it. And that is why, contrary to what many people think, these dreams do not require complex interpretation. They require presence, attention, reverence. The message is almost always there, clear, strong, without disguise. But we need to learn to trust this more subtle listening. To trust our own intuition, the impact that the dream caused, the change in mentality that came along with it. Because true intervention does not happen only while you dream, it continues after you wake up. In your new decisions, in the relief that comes out of nowhere, in the reunion with something that seemed lost within you. And perhaps this is the most beautiful part of this type of dream. He returns parts of you that were dormant. It brings back your confidence, your courage, your lucidity. And it does so without noise, without imposition, without spectacle. It simply appears, touches, and disappears, leaving in its place a silent certainty. You have been visited, and that which visited you was not of this world. Write in the comments, that makes sense to me. If you've ever woken up with that feeling of having received something profound, even without really understanding why. Because the next revelation we're going to explore is exactly about that, how the angelic presence can leave clues not only in dreams, but also in the days that follow, and that almost always reveal what was invisible until then. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because this feeling of protection and guidance that we feel after a dream of angelic intervention is not something superficial or fleeting. It is linked to an internal transformation that directly affects our mentality, the way we see our decisions, and the impact they have on our entire journey. When a dream like this happens, something invisible is revealed, a hidden truth that remains behind the scenes of our consciousness, ready to be unveiled at the right time. And it is not just a vague sign or a momentary intuition. It is as if a spiritual code is activated within us, awakening a sharper perception of the direction we should follow. This change often doesn't need to be dramatic to be powerful. In fact, angelic dreams usually work in the subtleties, in the delicacy of the invisible touch that guides our steps without us noticing it right away. It's a process that happens silently behind the scenes of our being, affecting our emotions and thoughts, and being reflected in the small choices of our daily lives, and that's where the beauty of this intervention lies. It doesn't invade our space or trample on our freedom. On the contrary, it respects our time, our capacity for assimilation, and gives us a key to open doors that previously seemed locked, without us realizing the exact moment of this opening. When we think about profound transformations, we know that they rarely occur in a linear or rapid way. They require patience, self-knowledge, and, above all, a change in mindset, a repositioning of the way we face challenges, fears, hopes, and even doubts. Dreams with an angelic presence offer us exactly that, an invitation to this subtle but real change, which goes beyond what the eyes can see. They plant a seed, small at first, that grows and strengthens as we nurture this new perception, allowing it to take shape in our inner life and then on the outside. And when we talk about mindset, we are also talking about our capacity, because it is one thing to receive a message, it is quite another to incorporate it into practice, into the concrete choices that shape our path. The order given to the angels to guard us, as Psalm 91:11 says, is a powerful guarantee that we are not alone on this journey. There is a silent, almost imperceptible movement that works in our favor, guiding our decisions and protecting our steps. This does not mean the absence of difficulties, but the presence of an invisible force that works so that, even in the midst of challenges, we can find balance and clarity. It is fascinating to see how these spiritual experiences interact with our daily lives, even when we are not always able to express them or fully understand them. Often, the impact of these interventions is only revealed later, in the way we react to situations that would previously have paralyzed us, or in our ability to remain calm in the face of the unexpected. The effect is like a subtle redirection, a kind of internal adjustment that aligns us with a greater truth, a truth that is not always on the surface, but that propels us forward, even when we do not fully understand it. These revelations, even if silent, can manifest themselves in surprising ways. An unexpected encounter, a phrase, or even a song that touches our hearts deeply can be echoes of the message brought in the dream. It is as if angelic dreams were bridges between worlds, between what is visible and what is hidden, between what we think and what we feel. This connection reinforces the power that these experiences have to expand our consciousness and strengthen our faith in that which we cannot see, but feel is real and tangible. Thinking about this movement makes us realize that the spiritual journey is not only made up of great signs or visible miracles, it is also built on attentive listening to these small clues, on valuing moments of silence, on trusting in the process of transformation that happens within us. It is an invitation for us to be present, not only in our dreams, but also in our awakening, attentive to what these signs want to teach us about our own essence and purpose. True transformation occurs when we learn to recognize and welcome these small interventions, these revelations that often go unnoticed amidst the noise of everyday life. This angelic presence that touches our lives, therefore, is not something distant or abstract. It is closer than we imagine, acting as an invisible guardian, a silent friend who supports us behind the scenes of existence. Recognizing this presence can be the beginning of a profound change, capable of transforming not only our dreams, but also the way we live each day, each choice, each moment. It is a call for us to awaken to the hidden truth that already lives within us, so that we accept this guidance that often comes disguised as a dream, and that continues to act after we awaken, motivating us to move forward with greater confidence and lucidity. By understanding this dynamic, we realize that angelic dreams are not just isolated phenomena or ephemeral experiences, but rather integrated parts of a larger process of spiritual growth and maturation. They connect us to a reality that transcends the visible, bringing revelations that go beyond simple human logic and that have the power to transform our perception of the world and of ourselves. And it is precisely in this transformation that the true impact of these silent messages resides. They invite us to a new mindset, to a journey that respects our time, that values our free will, and that opens doors to a broader horizon full of meaning. So when you experience this sense of clarity and protection after a dream, know that you are facing a calling and invitation to deepen your connection with yourself and with something greater, to listen to the whispers of your soul that often come in the form of dreams, symbols, and sensations. Recognizing and welcoming this presence is taking the first step on a journey of self-transformation, where each decision is guided by a deeper wisdom and a faith that does not depend on immediate evidence, but on trust in something invisible, but real. Comment. I'm on this journey too. At certain moments in life, something reveals itself in such a subtle way that it almost escapes our attention, but it carries with it a profound impact, capable of transforming our entire perspective. When a dream with an angelic presence touches the soul, it acts like a silent key, opening internal doors, those that we often didn't even know were locked. This key doesn't force entry, nor does it impose its will. It simply invites us to look within, to reflect on our trajectory, our choices, and on the hidden truth that pulses in each decision we make. It is in this silent and gentle invitation that one of the greatest powers of these dreams lies, the awakening of a deeper consciousness, a renewal of the mentality that begins to act behind the scenes of our existence. This transformation, however, does not happen overnight, nor does it manifest itself in a grand or dramatic way. On the contrary, it is constant and gradual, like an invisible current that pulls us imperceptibly towards a higher state of understanding. It is these small revelations, often undervalued, that make all the difference. A symbol that appears in a dream, an unexpected sensation upon waking, an idea that springs from nowhere. They all carry meanings that go beyond the visible plane, helping us to align everyday decisions with a wisdom that goes far beyond the rational, connecting us to a force that works silently so that our journey becomes clearer and lighter. Reflecting on this leads us to understand the real impact that these dreams can have on our practical lives. How many times do we receive subtle signs, but ignore them because we are too distracted or because we do not know how to decode what our heart insists on showing us? The spiritual journey often takes place away from the spotlight, behind the scenes of everyday life, in intimate moments of silence and introspection. It is in this reserved space that the greatest transformations occur, when we allow the angelic message to penetrate our consciousness and shape the way we face challenges, fears, and hopes. What makes it all even more fascinating is realizing that, contrary to common belief, the angelic presence does not free us from difficulties, but offers a new lens through which we can face them. This renewed mindset does not seek to deny reality or run away from problems, but rather transforms our relationship with them, bringing clarity and courage to the decisions that need to be made. The strength received is not to avoid obstacles, but to overcome them with serenity and confidence, knowing that we are supported by a greater energy, acting in our favor even when our eyes cannot see. This silent confidence, born from an angelic dream, has the power to profoundly change the way we interpret the events around us. We begin to recognize that moments of doubt and uncertainty are natural stages of the journey, and that within them lies a precious opportunity for growth. Instead of fearing the unknown, we begin to see it as an essential passage that takes us to a higher level of consciousness and self-knowledge. This internal transformation, even if invisible to others, is the true treasure that these dreams offer us. The revelations that come to us at this moment act as beacons that illuminate previously dark paths, opening up new possibilities that previously seemed unattainable. They challenge us to look within with courage, question old patterns, and reinvent ourselves in the face of adversity. Each small change in perspective, each decision guided by this new understanding, builds a solid foundation for a life more aligned with our deepest purpose. If we turn our gaze to the words of the Bible, we will find a profound confirmation of this divine protection. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. This promise is a powerful reminder that, even when we are not paying attention, there is an invisible network of care and guidance that accompanies us. This network manifests itself through dreams, intuitions, and the little clues that life places in our path, always inviting us to trust and move forward. In light of all this, a crucial question challenges us to reflect deeply. What if the dream you had last night was a warning from an angel that ended up being ignored? This provocation is not intended to scare you, but to draw greater attention to what may be going unnoticed in your life. It is an invitation for you to pay more attention to the signs, to value the messages that come disguised as dreams, and to realize that these experiences may be the turning point for a real and lasting transformation. Comment below if you've ever had a dream that felt more real than life itself. You may be about to discover something powerful about your connection to the divine. And if this video touched your heart, share it with someone you love. It may be just the sign they've been waiting for. If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation really touched something inside you. And that's already a sign that you're open to receiving more of these messages that can transform your journey. So, if you want to continue exploring these topics that help awaken a deeper awareness and strengthen your connection with what's most true, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here we seek to bring content that really makes a difference, that serves those who want to grow, change their mindset, and live with more clarity and purpose. And since you stayed with me until the end, leave a comment with the phrase, "I'm with you until the end," so I know that this message came at the right time. This helps to create this exchange between us, because that's how we build a community that grows together, supports each other, and shares these powerful revelations. If you liked the video, leave a like. This simple gesture here is like an acknowledgement of the connection we have built, and it helps me to continue bringing you more valuable content. Also, take a look at the video here on the side. It complements exactly everything we talked about today, and will be a great step for you to continue this journey of self-knowledge and transformation. Let's go together. Always forward.